everybody coming from the U.S. thinks about, or thinks that Europe is, the land of milk and honey for traditional power metal bands or whatever you call it, which is not so true. It's not, on primetime TV and stuff. It's I just think that this kind of music can be heard everywhere, and it's just hard to break down barriers, and you have to go for it. For example, Nightwish. I remember listening to their first or their second album when we were in Finland in the mid of the 90s, and I was listening to it, and I said, like, this sounds quite cool, but who do you think are you going to sell it to,
Right.
And the guy from the studio said, like, oh, I think they will be pretty big one day. And, and they just kept playing and playing and playing, and I didn't think that kind of music could ever be mainstream, but I think they sold like more than 1 million copies of their last record, which is amazing. It is mainstream. They play 10 to 12,000 people a night. This is, and I think, it's just a matter of breaking down barriers. I think nothing is impossible, and I just think that, as for America, a lot of people, a lot of bands give up even before they have started trying to achieve more success there. And I think that's the problem. It's of course, I think, from what I've heard, that, for example, the media structure is a little bit different in America. There's not international, or not international, but nationwide. There's not so many nationwide magazines that feature that kind of music. That's a difference here in Europe. You have it. You have good magazines, big magazines in Germany, and you have big magazines in Italy, and you have big magazines in Sweden, and they all want to have our faces on the cover every now and then, and and this is a good thing that doesn't really do any harm to your sales figures, and I think that's the difference. It's not that established. That the whole kind of infrastructure of the media landscape is different in Europe than in America. I think that's the only difference, and that's why you have to really work hard. There's just one chance you can make it in the U.S., and that's basically touring. And that's what we're going to do with that guy in the future, and hope a lot of people will find out that we are the best band on the planet.
Exactly. Well, Toby, as you just stated, you did tour the U.S. Last year, and from all recollection, I actually saw the show here in Cleveland, and it definitely was a fun, energetic show. But after hearing an album like you guys' live record, the Burning Down the Opera record, it clearly was a different kind of a show. That the show you did on that record, it's obviously big and huge, and here I saw you in a small club playing for like 700-800 people. Was when you're used to playing in a big arena like you have in Europe, was it kind of disappointing the first time through to go back to the clubs? No. I mean, no way. That's what you expect. I mean, how can you possibly expect a couple of thousands of people showing up when you know the capacity figures in advance? It would be very, very hot in there, to squeeze like 4,000 people into that club that you're talking about. So no, but seriously, it's as I said before. It's we really, really know how difficult it is, and that it's a different kind of thing. It's a different planet. It's not as different as Japan. And everybody will say that it's different going to Japan. But, the USA, in some ways, the US and Europe are very, very, very similar. But in that, it's just, that it's just a new market. It's a market that we haven't played that many times before, and therefore it's a market where you have to work hard. It's the same in England, for example, We're not really, I think there's a fan base in England, but we couldn't play the same sizes of venues in England as we can, for example, in Sweden or Italy or Germany. That's a different story, and we expected that. We knew that it would be tough in the U.S., that it would be not tough but different, and that
in the past we didn't. We played in Sweden, like for example, I'd say, like, I don't know, 60, 70, 80, 90 shows, and it's a country. There's like 8 million people, I think, living there. So in the USA, how many people do you have? Like 250 million or something like that, 220 million. And we just played probably 50, 60 shows in the U.S. as well. Now, do the maths, and you will find out that we haven't worked as hard in America as we have in Sweden. And that's why in Sweden, more people came to see the show because more people knew that they would get a good show.
Right. Well,
as easy as that.
Well, Toby, I got to ask you something. Chris and I, we're in our late 30s, early 40s. We still like to go to shows now and again, but because of the state of commercial radio in the U.S., a band like it, you would never hear a band like Ed Guy on commercial radio here in the U.S. You might hear them on satellite radio on XM or Sirius or internet radio like the Classic Metal Show. But the promotion for bands like Ed Guy is very minimal here in the U.S. What's your thoughts about coming into a town to play a club, kind of like we were talking off air about playing the Pearl Room in Mokina? And because the promotion or because of the popularity of the band is not there due to, lack of exposure, what's your thoughts about the club stacking the bill with 4, 5, 6 opening bands just to get to you, and you guys go on at midnight? Most people here in the States, they have to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to go to work, and they have to wait around till midnight to finally see the headliner, which, like Ed Guy would be. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, what's my thought on that? I think it's not what can I say? It's not the best solution, but sometimes you have to pick your poison. And if this is the only alternative to not playing, actually, if this is the only option you have, you've got to take that option and do it. And it's of course for me the best situation, or I think the best thing for the band, for Ed Guy, the best way to promote our album or to promote our live qualities was to do a support show for some bigger band, and
right.
Just play 45 minutes as we did for Aerosmith here in Germany on the last tour, which was funny because we played to people who were not who didn't know about us. We would play to most of them, didn't even want to know about us.
Right, right.
But I think we convinced them, and it was a different thing. But I think it's got nothing to do so much with the radio. Of course, it would be supportive to have your stuff being played on commercial radio, but on the other hand, that's no difference. It's nowhere. There's no difference anywhere. It's the same in Germany and the same in Sweden. We get hardly airplay on commercial radio. We don't get any airplay on TV. It's just, I think the heavy metal and rock scene was always based on word of mouth and going out and play. And this is a good thing because, it's just when you make it and when you hit the jackpot as a rock or metal band, you surely deserve it. And you can make sure that you will be around and heard even after 10 years if you don't screw up totally. And I think that's the big advantage. If you take, for example, like you got Star Search as well, I think, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
If you take a look at those, I mean, I don't know how it is in the U.S., but, if you take the German stars, which is a real funny word because they are just stars, they're instant stars, for 3 months. And then, their star license is expired. and then they are back, to some Australian jungle doing, like very bad TV shows in order to get like $20,000 to pay their debts. And this is a real funny thing, and I don't want to, I don't want to be in that situation. If you, for example, if you take a look at Kiss, they have been doing, they have been playing, and I think, I was not around when they were starting off in 74, but I think they were not played on radio as well in the beginning. They were played on radio once they had gathered so many fans around them that, the radio shows were doing better if they better played them. And I think that's the right order. I think you should just go